It's a rivalry renewed down in the Sunshine State as Florida and Miami get set to do battle. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Gators and the Hurricanes. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole the Bear Thompson. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast or get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are powered by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $250 in bonus bets today. Florida and Miami renew their rivalry down in the south part of the state. Gators and Hurricanes, need we say more? Florida looking to bounce back from back-to-back losses. Miami looking to stay red hot early in this 2025 season. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole the Bear Thompson. Cole, appreciate you taking the time. Really excited to talk about this one with you.
Both these teams need a massive win for different reasons. One is bragging rights. If you are Miami, you get to start off the year with yet another victory, 4-0. You have wins now over 2 of your 3 in-state opponents this upcoming year. And it's also going to be a major step in the right direction to help you gain more balance towards a college football playoff resume. And if you're Florida, you're simply just looking to right the ship however you can. Defensively, you're there. Offensively, you have the pieces. Now we're going to see, with your backs truly against the wall because of a loss on Saturday, is probably a guaranteed knife nail in the coffin that you are not going to the college football playoff. How do you respond, Billy Napier? And how do you respond on the road in Hard Rock Stadium?
Bear, Gators sit right now at 1-2 early in the season. Of course, Miami undefeated at this point. A loss would drop Florida to 1-3. And we'll get more into it in just a second. But the energy that's already surrounding that program, around Billy Napier, the future of Gators football, it is only going to intensify. So certainly a lot on the line. Bear, this game taking place, of course, 6:30 Central Time kickoff on ABC down there in Miami Gardens at Hard Rock Stadium. The Gators bear only a 7.5-point underdog. The over-under is set at 51.5. Miami leads this all-time series 30-27. And, of course, the last meeting, who can forget what happened last year? Yours truly was there in person. Miami put belt to ass, essentially, won that game 41-17 in the Swamp. And, Mayor, I think we have to start there, right? Because the reality is this. This week doesn't have, in my opinion, the kind of energy you would expect around a Florida-Miami game because of how down and out and in the dumps Florida fans are. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. Again, you sit at 1-2, back-to-back losses to South Florida and LSU, and an LSU loss where I think you had opportunities, but your quarterback throws 5 interceptions, and you still somehow only lose that game by 10 points. And then, of course, the prior week you lose to South Florida. Miami takes care of business against the Bulls, so that makes you feel even worse about that result. And now we sit here, Bear, with Billy Napier. I don't know if we're far too gone at this point. It kind of feels like we are. It kind of feels like the inevitable is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, prior to end of season. I don't think going into the bye week, for example, next weekend, I don't think it's going to happen. But you are right, Bear. Like, if Billy Napier, forget the playoff stuff. That would be awesome. But if Billy Napier is going to have any shot of salvaging his job and being the guy going into 2026, this feels like a game you got to find a way to steal. I mean, listen, you're only a touchdown dog in this game. For as good as Miami has been, I do think they are beatable. We talked about it when we talked about the South Florida game, Bear. Losing those in-state games is more detrimental than anything. Like, you want to put up a border around the state. You want to own the state. It's a really hard reality to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, we're not even close to the best team in this state. We might be 3rd or 4th or 5th best. And also, too, you think about this, Bear, because this was a storyline last year. The Mario Cristobal thing. He and Billy Napier taking over at the same time. Look where their program is. Top 5 in the country, right? Like, playing for something, playing for a playoff, potentially a national title. Look where Florida is right now. And again, you can't just say it's the LSU loss. Like, you lost to South Florida, right? Like, you're sitting there with a losing record. You could potentially be 1-3. This is a massive, massive game for any hopes that the Gators have, not just in the 2025 season, but any hope that Billy Napier might have to salvage his tenure there.
Another thing that's really valuable here is looking at the adjustments made in the offseason by these two programs that were essential towards your success. A lot of people questioned Billy Napier as a play caller. They said, go out and hire yourself an offensive coordinator. Let somebody else take over the offense. He said, no, I'm going to run the show my way. I think this is going to be the best course of action for our program. I know what's best for DJ Lagway. And so far, Lagway has been a bust. The play calling has been obsolete. The inability to find any balance on the ground with the running back like Jaden Baugh is mind-boggling, and it feels like regression has set in. Meanwhile, you look at Miami, they had one of the worst defenses in college football last year. They had an offense good enough to win a national title, a defense that kept them out of the college football playoff in the ACC title game. They go out and they hire Corey Heatherman from Minnesota. So far, that defense ranks top 25 in every single category. One of the best defensive lines in college football, a solid linebacking room, a resurgent secondary that was giving up easy touchdowns left and right in the ACC last year. So just the value of seeing how one offseason of learning from your mistakes can truly be the reason why you have set yourself up for success this year is another selling point to why you wonder what is the difference between Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier. One is learning from his mistakes. One is willing to capitalize on those blunders, be willing to take blame, and then go out there and fix the faults, while the other one is still backtracking and doing the same things that you look at in year 2 of a program or in year 1 of a program. And it's frustrating. Carson Beck is playing out of his mind right now. He has looked the part in this offense underneath Shannon Dawson. They have a balanced rushing attack out in Coral Gables. They have wide receivers that on paper aren't as talented as the wide receivers with the blue chip ratio at Florida, but they're making better plays and they're being more consistent. And ultimately, they have one of the best offensive lines in the country that is going to be a problem to deal with if you are Florida's front seven. Florida's got a good defense. Florida's defense has allowed them to stay in the last 2 games, even though they lost. You got to wonder, is this where the dam breaks? And now you need your offense to have to deliver. Because I'll tell you what, defensively, if we're looking at these two, Florida has the advantage over Miami, but it's not by much. And you never thought you would say that after watching how many bad designs and how many comebacks from Cam Ward you saw last season because the defense just couldn't hold up in Coral Gables. That's not going to be a problem in this game. And you get to go into their backyard, which just adds more fuel to the fire and more pressure on Billy Napier and DJ Lagway to deliver.
Bear, you mentioned how good Carson Beck has been, and certainly it looks like the change of scenery has helped him out tremendously. That takes me back to DJ Lagway, though. You're going to have to get good quarterback play to have a chance to win this game. And yeah. I think the thing I question most is where is DJ Lagway mentally? It looks as if he's regressed. It looks as if he's taken a step backwards. Is it because he missed the entire spring due to the injury, missed some fall due to injury? I can't imagine that helps a ton. What type of bounce back performance do we get from DJ Lagway? Because he's going to have to bounce back in a big way. There's no question. You're going to have to get the best version of DJ Lagway, like you said, against a Miami defense that's been really good at this point. So, when guys have big performances, Bear, you and I ask, what does this guy have in store for an encore? When it comes to DJ Lagway, what does he have in store for a bounce back? It's going to have to be a complete 180 from him for them to have a shot in this game.
I don't mean to come at Miami fans, so please know from where I'm coming at this, it's not an insult. The way your defense has drastically responded in the secondary is something that you can at least hold your hat on. And it could be a reason why Miami now wins the ACC. They go to Charlotte, they go to the college football playoff. That is this question mark right now, I think, still for the Hurricanes. And it's not a big one, but you allowed nearly 300 passing yards against South Florida. You allowed 230 passing yards against Notre Dame. And I get it. Some of them is garbage time. Some of them are just, we already know that we have the win, so we're just going to coast our way. But is this a thing that, right now you still are trying to find your footing? So can DJ Lagway take those advantages? Sees a 10-yard out route by Vernell Brown. Goes ahead and hits him going toward the sideline. He goes first down marker. Quick little crossing pattern to Trey Wilson for a gain of 7, gain of 8. Those are going to be areas where you have to look. Those are going to be areas where you're going to have to see, I think, Florida take those advantages because they have one of the best defensive lines in the country. They aren't allowing any mobility. Look back at that matchup against Notre Dame with 2 of the best running backs in college football, and Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. They averaged under 3 yards a play, and you know how high I am on Jaden Baugh. Jaden Baugh is a very talented running back, and I think that when he is at his peak, he is one of the best running backs in the SEC. He can make plays. He's got that physicality. He is not afraid to go ahead and deliver the blow to get to that home run speed, and he'll work his way up. But this is not a game where you can say, hey, we're going to hand the ball off 42 times to Jaden Baugh, and whatever happens, happens. They're going to blanket him. They're going to corral him in the box. They're going to play 7 or 8. They'll send the linebacker. They'll send a safety or a nickel defender down to play run support. And they'll say, here, beat us over the top. And this is where TJ Lagway is going to have to learn from his mistakes from last week. How many times, how many of the interceptions were we watching as he's staring down the receiver? He's staring down the safety. And instead of going to a second or third read or maneuvering outside the pocket or trying to step on up and just pick up a few yards and evade a sack, you know what? Screw it. Just throw it right in the middle of double coverage. Interception, and you lose that confidence. That's going to be the way you have to win this game, though. It is. It's not to say that Florida can't make this thing interesting, but you're going to have to trust Lagway, and you're going to have to trust the passing attack to have any shot. Because I look at the way Ruben Bain plays. I look at the way this interior defensive line is getting after it. The linebacker play. They eliminate the rushing attack. They make offenses one-dimensional, and they suffocate them by exposing their weaknesses. So this is going to be a game that comes down to Lagway, and that's scary to think of. Because if you don't want to put it all on Lagway, but it may have to be on Lagway in this matchup.
Bear, let me pose this question to you. You mentioned Ruben Bain, and the battle in the trenches, it goes without saying, I think is going to be massive in this football game. Florida needs their offensive line to step up, play well. Again, Ruben Bain's a guy who's been hair on fire, been electric to this point in the season, obviously off the edge. Miami's defense has been much improved. Let me ask you this, though, Bear. How much confidence do you think it gives Florida, if any, right? Because this is a different situation, different circumstance. They've seen Carson Beck before. They saw him last year, and they picked on him. I was at that game, the cocktail party, obviously, a season ago, and I think he threw like 3 interceptions in that game. It's a different scenario. It's a different offense, different playmakers. I totally get it. But do you think having experience against Carson Beck as a defensive staff, like that's got to give them some confidence in this game that they can rattle him a little bit and get the ball off him, right?
The good news is that your defense is miles improved from last season. And last year was one of Carson Beck's worst games. He had some bad blunders. And, we look back and we can blame the wide receivers. We can blame the offensive line. But still, he had his fair share of mistakes. And that was largely due to the offense he was running. 3 interceptions, threw 2 touchdown passes. He was sacked 3 times. He ran out of bounds. He had a couple of 3-and-out drives. But he still threw for 309 yards. He still was able to get the ball moving throughout the air. So, yeah, you can be able to scheme up some advantages and look at the film on where he threw 2 interceptions against South Florida last week and figure out, hey, if we run this zone coverage and we play a safety over the top and we allow him to try to find Malachi Toney downfield, maybe we can jump the route and be able to put ourselves in a position where we take away the offensive success, but our offense is now going to have to deliver. You can wonder about that, but then you have to also ask yourself, what were the other faults for Georgia last season? They did not have that ferocious offensive line like they have this year. Wide receivers led the country in drops last season. The inability to have that physical rushing attack that we're so accustomed to seeing in Athens, it wasn't there. And it's not to say that Georgia didn't have talent. It's just it wasn't the same version of Georgia we're so used to seeing. This is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in college football, protecting Carson Beck. CJ Daniels is a very good complementary wide receiver. Malachi Toney is going to be a star in the making that people need to be paying attention to if they haven't already figured out who he is. You also got to throw in adding in a tight end like Alex Bowman. You also got to have a wide receiver like Joshua Moore. Tony Jefferson's made some plays. Keelan Marion's made some plays. So the wide receiver room is much more balanced, and they can win their one-on-one battles. And you also got to look at this rushing attack. They don't have a Nate Frazier. They don't have a dude built like, a Nick Singleton or a Katron Allen or a Jeremiah Love. But they got 3 guys that all can tote the rock at an efficient level. You got Mark Fletcher, who's averaging over 6 yards a play. Shamar Brown, who's the transfer that joined the team from North Dakota State. You also have Jordan Lyle, who didn't play in last week's game, but he also may end up being the best running back out there. So you got to like what you have when it comes to the rushing attack, which I think is, again, another massive win for not putting all this pressure on Carson Beck to have to deliver. You have your advantages if you're Florida. You know what makes him tick, but this is also a better Miami team than probably the Georgia team that you faced off against Jacksonville last year. So it's like, it's a trade-off. You got to look at it from the perspective of, yeah, you can be able to slow him down, but also he's going to have the weapons and the time to be able to hurt you too.
Bear, another big factor in this game, certainly want to mention Caleb Banks out for the Florida Gators. Billy Napier confirming after the LSU game, you're losing him to a long-term injury. Feels like when it rains, it pours for Florida. And that's going to be a key in this one, Bear, because you look at, we talked about the trenches, going to be huge. That Miami rushing attack's been pretty good too. Look back at Mark Fletcher Jr., 42 carries, 272 yards, 6.5 yards per carry for him, 4 touchdowns early in the season. And they've also got Shamar Brown complimenting him, 31 for 126, 2 touchdowns. Pringle's got 2 touchdowns. Carson Beck has ran for 1 himself. So 538 rushing yards at this point. They can run the football. You got to make Miami one-dimensional. If they're able to do both, obviously establish the ground game, Carson Beck is just going to have a field day. Because everything people want to say negatively about him, you give Carson Beck some time and a little bit of balance. That's something he didn't have at Georgia. He's showing early this season why I think we were all so high on him. He's looking like that first-round draft pick, maybe top 10, top 5, maybe number 1 overall type of caliber pick. He's showing why people thought that so highly of him.
He right now is in the right offensive system. And I think that is such a wondrous addition. Because of last season, he didn't feel comfortable. And I'm not blaming this on Mike Bobo. I'm not saying that Bobo is just the worst thing alive. I know Georgia fans don't like him. And I get that probably Carson Beck is not his biggest fan because the way things ended. But still, Shannon Dawson did a phenomenal job of working out what were the weaknesses of Cam Ward that made him a Heisman finalist and the number 1 overall pick. So far, outside of one of those interceptions, because the other one was just a blundering mistake, no one's really going to be combative about that. He's been about as perfect as you want, and he's done so against a solid enough G5 defense in South Florida, and he's done so against, still in my opinion, which is going to be an improved, even though it doesn't look like it right now after the the Texas A&M game, a solid Notre Dame defense. They'll get back on the wagon and they'll finish in the top 30, I think most metrics by the end of the year. So he's looked the part, but you brought up the rushing attack. This is a Florida team that allowed 4.4 yards of play, kept them out of the end zone, but 5 explosive runs against South Florida. And they allowed the big explosive run at the end of the game against LSU. But again, you take that out, that's been a strength for them so far. You know, they've been able to at least make these offenses force you to win through the air. And that's a good statement for what you have in the front 7. That's a good statement what you have at the linebacker spot. They're not over pursuing angles. They're not playing too far back to where they're missing and they're giving up yardages because of they're not able to come down and fly to the football that fast. It does make me wonder, though, if this becomes a shootout and this becomes a game where you have got to trust the air attack, and it goes on both sides because of, again, Florida's defense. I mean, Miami's defense has been phenomenal in the trenches. Who do you trust more right now? I have visual proof and multiple games of reps that says you can trust what you're seeing in Carson Beck with this wide receiver core in this offensive personnel, that he is not going to be rattled. Even if the pressure collapses and he's in and there are defensive linemen in his face, make it plays. I don't feel that way about DJ Lagway right now. And honestly, it's a shame because Lagway, I still believe, is a very talented player. And I don't know if it's the confidence. I don't know if it's the personnel. I don't know if it's just the fact that he doesn't have the reps underneath him from the spring. But it's abundantly clear. Carson Beck took all of his fall camp. He didn't have a spring. Remember this, Chris. He was out because of the elbow injury. He took all of those reps in fall camp and all of the mental reps that he had to do throughout the time in spring football. And he acclimated so well to this system. And Lagway just feels like he's regressed. And so this is going to be a game where if it comes down to a shootout, you're trusting Carson Beck. I'm not saying Lagway can't do it, but you don't have a lot of supporters right now. In fact, you got way more doubters than actual supporters.
Like you said, Bear, winning the state of Florida, massive for both sides. And no matter the state of these programs, obviously Florida where they are, Miami where they are, this is a massive rivalry. Both these fan bases despise each other. I can speak firsthand and experience them both, not just on the gridiron, but on the baseball diamond as well. Bear, that being said, let's go ahead and lock in some predictions, some picks. Would you like the honors, or do you want me to go first when it comes into locking in our pick for this game?
I'll go first. Again, this is a matchup that we are probably not going to see for a while again. We saw it last year, how it unfolded. Cam Ward made his presence felt. The same thing could happen with Carson Beck. He's already played against Florida multiple times. He knows what Florida's defense is all about. He knows what Billy Napier is all about. And he knows this could be a game that if he is able to deliver, not only does this get bragging rights towards him, because if he'll improve to 3-0 against Florida in his career, but also it will allow him to kind of set the tone for the rest of the ACC. Remember, they still have a matchup against Florida State in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, if I'm not mistaken. They get a bye and then they go play Florida State. You'll play 3 straight schools in the Sunshine State, and afterwards you can be sitting at 3-0. What does that do when you can say you beat an SEC team and then you handle business against a Florida State team that beat an SEC team as well? It only builds confidence and more surefire commitment that this is a new version of Miami that we've been missing. On the flip side, this is an opportunity for Florida to be able to make a statement. Listen, I know that we lost to LSU. Many people view them as the national champion, or at least a factor in the national championship. We know we lost to South Florida. Our offense didn't deliver, but we left that in the past. We spent the entire week mentally preparing for what was a game that we knew after last season, how embarrassing it was in front of our home crowd. We could not afford to lose. And I think that Florida's defense gives them a shot in every single game. We watched the way they were able to slow down Byron Brown and the rushing attack of the Bulls. We watched the way that they were able to slow down the rushing attack and really just overall the offense of LSU down in Death Valley. They made this a game to where you have opportunities to strike. And it feels like it's a slap in the face because of when you have this big of an offensive personnel, you should be good enough to be able to at least make things interesting. And it feels like now we're having the same kind of conversations with Florida that we have with LSU. How much does our defense have to step on up to give our offense a shot? I think if they deliver, I think if they show on up, I think if they make this thing a very, very, very interesting battle going into the fourth quarter, I think that they make Carson Beck have to throw. And he does find some success, but he also has some weaknesses. But I don't trust DJ Lagway. I don't trust this offensive play calling. I don't trust this personnel. And when you don't have trust, you don't have a shot. And honestly, I don't think DJ Lagway trusts DJ Lagway right now in this offensive personnel. The over and under is set at 52.5. I'm taking the under. I think this is going to be more so in that 20-17, 21-24 type of range. I don't think that you're going to see a lot of explosive plays. I just think you're going to see a few more shots downfield from Carson Beck that will put you in the end zone. I think that Lagway is going to have another couple turnovers. Final score, 24-17. I think that you are going to see Miami get a win. They stay undefeated. And now we start the clock, the countdown of, hey, Billy, go ahead and clean out your office. We got to hire somebody else to come in here and fix your mess.
Yeah, it's interesting, Bear. We've gotten to the point of the season. The Miami hype is through the roof. I mean, I see people like we mentioned a couple of days ago on social media saying maybe the Hurricanes are the best team in college football. I mean, it's early to be making those proclamations, but we have seen that, and the way they've played, I understand it. They're red hot, as hot as anybody in the country. Like we've mentioned, huge game for Billy Napier. They all are at this point, but certainly, again, when you're facing an in-state foe after you lost the South Florida game, I don't know that beating Miami would – certainly it wouldn't completely wash out that nasty taste in your mouth, but it'd be helpful. It'd be helpful, no doubt. I mean, they all matter for Billy at this point. You want to win the state of Florida. Bear, I think DJ Lagway is going to bounce back. I do. Now, what does that mean? I don't think he's going to throw 5 interceptions. Is he going to be elite? Not necessarily. I think he'll be much better. We know this team's not going to quit on Billy. I fully expect this game to be close. I'm not going to bet on Florida again because I can't trust them. That 7.5 number is really, really enticing. But I'm kind of with you, man. Like, listen, Miami's red hot. Carson Beck has been elite. He's got playmakers around him. The defense has been much better. Miami's clicking on all cylinders, and you've got a Florida Gators team going down to Hard Rock Stadium, which is it the best home field environment in college football? Not even remotely close, right? It's not. But it looks, I mean, from what I've seen, Canes fans have been showing up. Give them credit. I'm sure there'll be plenty of Gators there, but you got a Miami team that's clicking on all cylinders, red hot. You got a Florida team that's in dysfunction, disarray. I'd love to go with the upset here. I'd love to. I just can't do it for a lot of the reasons you just said. I can't trust Florida right now. I can't trust DJ Lagway. I can't trust Billy Napier. I can't trust Florida to step up and make the big plays when they need them to clutch up and go win a game such as this, again, against a Miami team that it's all been clicking for them to this point in the season. I think it's a little bit higher scoring than what you predicted, but I do think Miami prevails. I think Miami wins this game for the second straight year. I think they find a way. Again, will not surprise me at all if Florida covers in my pick. I have them covering, but I'm to the point where I've got to see it with this Gators team. You've been so inconsistent. You've been downright bad at times. I don't love the things I'm hearing down there in Gainesville about the overall energy in the locker room and, where they are mentally as a football team. And again, Bear, like you've got a team like that I think right now is very fragile. Like things are very, very fragile right now. And on the flip side, like the vibes couldn't be more opposite down in Miami Gardens. They couldn't be more opposite for the Hurricanes. So I like Miami to win this football game. I got the Canes 30, Gators 23, a little bit higher scoring than you. But, I got a one-score game. I think Florida will play with great effort, great intensity. They'll play for Billy. But at the end of the day, man, I think it's just going to be kind of more the same. And I think the Gators fall to 1-3. And I agree with you going into the bye week. The calls for his head are going to intensify to such a level that I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but we've seen other moves made across the country. You do wonder. I guess you do wonder at this point if it would happen, especially if it's ugly. If it's ugly, maybe all bets are off. But I think Florida plays hard in this one. I think DJ Lagway bounces back. I think Miami, they're just red hot right now. I got to go with the Hurricanes to get the win, 30-23. I got Miami prevailing. So
here's the bottom line. As long as they continue to play underneath Billy Napier, he won't be fired until the end of the year. The second that the fight is gone, then we can have the conversation. Is the fight gone after this game? No more spark. Because you also have to remember, Chris, what's in store coming on up. You still have Texas A&M. You still have Texas. You still have Georgia. You still have to face off against Kentucky. You have Tennessee coming in town. You have Florida State. Every single one of those games, you still have to play. Do you have the fight? Because if you don't have the fight, then what are we doing here? Oh, by the way, let's throw Mississippi State into that conversation too, because they are no longer a slouch, despite coming to the Swamp this year.
Guys, you agree with us? You disagree? We're both taking Miami to get the win over Florida. Would love to hear from you, Miami or Florida. Who is your pick when the two face off on Saturday night? Guys, it's going to do it all for us. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in before we get out of here. Do want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because, as always, we are brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, FanDuel's got you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5. If it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel's got you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Once again, FanDuel.com/SECU to get in on the action today. Guys, once again, we appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast. If you get your podcast, you can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Cole the Bear Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of your day. We will catch you all on the other side.